Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. We're really pleased that you could join us today. I think this is going to be a really excellent conversation. So we're delighted to be joined by Sax, who is the Director of Disruptive Learning. That's an amazing job title, I think, by the way, at UA92. And he's going to be talking to me today about bridging the digital skills gap. We know that digital skills are increasingly important for everybody, both in life and in work. And so we want to talk about some of the great work that UA92 is doing in this space, but then also more about the university's mission and some of the social impact that it's having. Just by way of an introduction, my name's Tom and I'm from the Digital Poverty Alliance. So we are a charity that really focuses on ending or trying to end digital poverty once and for all. So we have two core work streams really of what we do. The first relates to policy and advocacy, so working across the UK to say that more needs to be done from government, from industry, from the third sector to ensure that everybody is digitally included. We also provide practical support, practical help to individuals who are experiencing digital exclusion. So we run a number of practical projects with different groups who are in digital poverty. So we have projects that we run with teachers, with schools, with prison leavers, and we work to provide that support, but also understand what we can do to best support different individuals in different circumstances who are facing digital exclusion. Just in terms of a quick housekeeping note, so this session is being recorded. We're happy to share a recording of the webinar with attendees after today. It will probably be early next week that we'll send that through to everybody. We are also going to have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar today. So within Zoom, there is an option to add your questions. So as we go throughout the webinar, as I'm having a conversation with Sax, please do give us any thoughts, any reflections, any questions that you have, and just pop them into the Q&A function there. Last little bit of housekeeping. We are going to run a slightly shorter session today. So we're going to wrap up at 1:45. So we're probably going to do about 30 minutes of me and Sax in conversation. And then the last 15 minutes will address any questions or any comments that you have. So with that, I will now pass over to Sax to say thank you for joining us today. And I wondered if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you all today. And I do apologize for my incredibly festive T-shirt and background. Tom is well aware I spent a lot of time selecting a very good image. I'm a massive advocate of Christmas. It brings so much joy to people. Hi, Maddie. So you say, as they say, my name's Aaron Saxton, and everybody does call me Sax, apart from my wife or my mum or my dad if they're telling me off. And I'm the Director of Disruptive Learning at the University Academy 92, which is a university based in Old Trafford, arguably by the greatest football club in the world. I know that will cause some controversy, but never mind. And it was founded by the class of 92 and Lancaster University. The class of 92, including, arguably, again, some of the greatest graduates out of football in Education Academy: Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, Ryan Giggs, Phil Neville, Paul Scholes. And Gary Neville himself, who's on the board, who drives our strategy at the University Academy 92, UA92, hi Oleg, is a huge advocate of enabling education for all. And Lancaster University, who are massive advocates of high quality education, top 10 university in the country, ensure that our education enables our learners, the most underprivileged learners, to achieve big and achieve their dreams.
Great, excellent, thank you. So I wanted to start off the discussion by asking you a bit about what is the mission and the vision of UA92. Specifically within the context of digital skills. As I mentioned previously, we know that increasingly for a range of functions like accessing essential services, being able to access education, even things like, for example, shopping online for cheaper deals. There are so many things that people need connectivity and internet access for. So I wonder if you could talk about what preparation does UA92 provide to students to make sure that they can thrive and succeed in this digital world?
Brilliant question. And I think, we live in a digitally rich world at the moment. And I think, we've got one of the top economies in the world, the United Kingdom, and everybody just assumes, don't they? Because they can see a smartphone, everybody's got a social media profile. Everybody does a bit of shopping on Amazon. I hear you've done lots of your Christmas shopping already on Amazon, Tom. It seems that everybody has access. And actually, the stats are shocking, as you will know already, Tom, from your own stats, that 15 million people in the UK struggle with internet connectivity. 6% of the UK lack access to the internet. And about a quarter of the UK lack the ability to use the internet properly on the right devices, which is really scary when we're transitioning into a world where everything we do and consume is now online, including education. So our core mission is to change lives by making education accessible to all, and within that meet the needs and skills and talent of industry. And the question was, well, what are we doing? How are we enabling, firstly, people to access a digitally rich opportunity? And before we even talk about technology, Tom, it starts by who are we engaging with, and how are we enabling their education? And 70% of our students at UA92 are local, and we have a huge focus on the free school meals students. Nearly 50% of free school meal students, 30% of those receiving free school meals don't move into higher education, compared to 50% of those who are not in that category. And so first of all, we work really hard on the recruitment piece by engaging with some of our most marginalized communities across the United Kingdom, across GM in particular, to prove to them that we have the right model of education, a block model every 6 weeks. You know what you're doing, your AM or PM. There are 6 entry points in the year, so you're not restricted by, you've been made redundant, or you're just coming back from maternity, or, you've taken a bit of a career break. So we enable a program and an education that ensures no matter your background, your age, where you're from, you can join us at 6 points in the year and access, obviously, an incredible curriculum. And then on top of that, we put a significant focus on being digitally literate as an institution across our team and our technology. And we've built a £2 million digital academy on the second floor of our campus, which has got the latest tech. It's vibrant, it's exciting, it's got immersive technology, and we deliver apprenticeships and boot camps and a really rich computer science curriculum. I suppose just really drilling down as to, you said, how are we enabling students to access technology? Now, we education is we have a variety of different schemes targeted at those from free school meal background. So it's called Make It For Real, inspired by the incredible work that Marcus Rashford delivered. And if you don't mind me saying, I taught Marcus Rashford in year 8 and year 9 at his school, and I was an IT teacher, brilliant student, by the way. And so inspired by that, we thought, what are some of the barriers that these marginalized individuals from these communities that that lack the finances to access education, what are those barriers? And they're the hidden barriers that people don't often talk about, as you say, access to data. So being able to use data and not run out of data to access their education online, use Teams, or just to live day by day. The ability to buy basic crockery and fit out their apartments, and buy some bedding and duvets and some basic decor around their homes or their apartments, and then a device, being able to have a device which is fit for purpose. Of course, everybody has an iPhone, or a Google phone. I'm an iPhone fan by myself, but it's a device that is fit for purpose, where it's comfortable and easy to use. And then food vouchers, food like buying lunch every day. So and having travel. So for us, Make It For Real is a special package. If you've been on free school meals, at any point in your education experience, we provide a package where you get a laptop from Microsoft, free data from TalkTalk, you get free travel, lunch is provided every day, and you get a £200 moving voucher if you move into accommodation. So that is one of the mechanisms we're using to enable our individuals and students to access education and university. Sorry, it's a bit of a long answer.
No, thank you. That's amazing, and I think that it is stark, as you highlight, the difference between progression onto higher education for pupils in receipt of free school meals versus pupils not in receipt of free school meals. I wonder if you could talk a bit more about what that sort of outreach looks like, because I think from some of our experience in terms of digital inclusion, where you're dealing with communities that may be marginalized, they may be actually quite rightly skeptical sometimes. And I think especially in a context in which people may have had, less than positive experiences previously of the education system, there may be some cynicism there. There may be some barriers that have to be overcome. So I wonder if you can sort of unpick a little bit about what that outreach process looks like and how you persuade young people that education is something for them, that they have the potential to succeed and to prosper.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point, Tom, because it doesn't matter what strategy or mechanism or budget or grant or funding or marketing or PR you have to shout loud and proud and promote those opportunities and talk about what you can do for these communities. Because somebody like myself who grew up in Human Moss Side and a single parent family, came from in a relatively poor home, and university notoriously has a status in society. We've got some of the best universities in the world in our country, and everybody talks about those, and there's a natural association with wealth and success. And I would say, so my experience and many others, some of the points you alluded to, Tom, there is that is scary for some of these individuals from some of these marginalized communities, and it seems light years away from what they believe they're capable of achieving, what they know they probably can or can't afford, and then belief and like in the system, as you've touched on, is education in this country is fabulous. It's still ranked as one of the best education systems in the world, but many young people, certainly from our marginalized communities, have really negative experiences, whether it's through behavior or poor teaching or low quality outcomes, or they feel they've been categorized or pigeonholed as to a particular category group of individuals. And we work incredibly hard at getting into schools and local communities. And I know every business and institution would say that, but we've employed a specialized team of individuals who grew up in these communities, came from the local clubs in Manchester and community groups, and we actively work with them weekly, daily, going and supporting them in their clubs, going into schools and running specialized programs, breaking barriers down by running specialist programs back on campus. We do work with local, like the local chicken van in or local barber in Human Moss Side. These are the big community influencers that these local communities connect to, that they trust and believe in. And the more we prove the model, and the more of these individuals that come through our system and go back into the community and talk about that, the bigger our impact. And we have a fabulous student, you won't mind me mentioning his name, called Abs, and we've employed him as part of our recruitment team, who came through this system, got our greatest unlocked award at graduation, our first ever graduation, and he's back out there in communities, proving to these individuals and showing them that our model leads to a brilliant success.
Great, thank you. That's amazing, and I think that the the aspect you highlighted around trust and sort of people that are within the community able to give their own experience, telling people from their perspective how access to education benefited them is so powerful, and there's nothing that really substitutes, I think, in a way for that lived experience. You mentioned then the support that UA92 is providing around the Make It for Real package. So I wonder if you can talk a bit more about why it was determined that that sort of support was necessary for the student population, and what are some of the impacts that you're seeing in terms of how access to connectivity and devices have helped your student population.
Again, always some fabulous questions, Tom. And then I think so. Why make it for real and why free school meals is, I think the way grants and funding can work in education, and anybody who's involved in education in this call will know that the complexities of making claims and getting money in and justifying who deserves what it's an incredibly complex environment. And one of the things we wanted to do is have a real clear marker as to, what is a clear identifier of providing evidence that we can provide a package to somebody. And free school meals is a really clear identifier, and it gives us a real opportunity to work with schools and understand what does their mix of free school meals look like. Who within your school population requires support. So that's some of the rationale and why around that. And obviously Marcus Rashford being a bit of an inspiration for that during COVID. And then your second part of that question really was around what impact are we seeing around some of the work we're doing. And I suppose what I might talk a little bit more about is our boot camps as to the impact and some of the positive impact. And so we run a number of boot camps that are either 10 weeks full-time or 16 weeks part-time across some of the real key themes of digital technology and careers across GM. So whether it be a bit of cloud and then mixed in with a bit of AI and data, or web development, and the positive outcomes from that's been incredible. So they're all run online. They're free to all of our students who or candidates who join the course who are either out of work or sit below the poverty line in terms of their income, or living wage, or I should say. And what we're seeing is we've seen incredible numbers. So we had what did we have? 214 students last year. We had a 90% completion of those courses, and these were right across the Northwest. But here's the most exciting part of that: is we guarantee interviews, an opportunity to go for jobs. And about the latest stats, 75% of those students on that course got job interviews with top employers across GM and the Northwest. So we're talking THG, Microsoft, Disney Streaming, the KPMG, to name a few. These individuals who were out of work at one point completed the course. 90% of them, as a touchdown, completed and got a qualification in one of those digital pieces of technology. And then 75% of them got job interviews with some of those top businesses, and nearly 40% got jobs with those organizations. So for us, that's incredible to go from, I always say, zero to hero. Some of those students are running teams now at THG, which is just amazing. I'm so proud.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's fantastic success with those skills boot camps. I wonder as well that there's been an increase in digital apprenticeships as well over the last few years, especially with the introduction of the apprenticeship levy. I wonder if you can talk about UA92's offer around digital apprenticeships and how how people are seeing these alongside boot camps as a mechanism to, get new talent into the workforce for some of these really technical but really highly valuable digital skills.
Yeah, and I think thank you, Tom. And I think I'm a massive, massive, massive fan and advocate of apprenticeships. And I've been involved in apprenticeships for the best part of a decade now, if not a tad longer. And one I think one thing we sort of alluded to and touched on throughout sort of a lot of this conversation is around sort of kudos and recognition of when it comes to education. And I think I think sort of academia and a university have always sat in this, like the top echelons of where you need to go if you're from a particular background, a postcode, and you earn X amount, and you can go here. And then apprenticeships, I believe, have always sat sort of down here, and the perception from parents has been, oh, it's an engineering job or building construction, and that is so wrong and so disappointing. These modern trailblazing apprenticeships now, as you've just touched on, cover such a wide spectrum of areas, and digital being one of the biggest growth areas. And we're incredibly proud to have a number of digital apprenticeships that we launched this year. So one around cloud and DevOps. So that's how to code and deploy stuff in the cloud with companies like so we've got JD Sports and THG apprentices, a part of UA92. We've got a cyber ops apprenticeship, so looking at cyber. And we're just about, and they're level 4, so they're the first year of degree level, which is amazing. And they're free, which is what I love about apprenticeships, which you've touched on. So these apprentices are earning a really good salary, 1 day a week on campus, doing a degree level qualification and getting no debt, and whilst having a job. So phenomenal. And then we're about to launch a level 7 AI apprenticeships, artificial intelligence apprenticeships. That's master's level in the new year. So I'll pause there in case you've got any more. I could talk about how we build them and all the rest of it.
No, that's great, and the same. I'm a big advocate of apprenticeships, and I think that those opportunities to develop those skills for occupations that are very much in demand, whilst at the same time, being able to emerge from that process debt free, I think has a lot to speak to it. And I think you're right as well that the perception of what apprenticeships are in terms of the kinds of occupations they support is much broader, much wider than sometimes public perception is would have you think. I also wonder then, in terms of the sort of way that education providers are helping prepare young people for the future workforce. Now, we're seeing technology transform all the time. So we had things like last year, we had ChatGPT that was launched. There are these changes in sort of quantum computing, and there is a sense that there's a sort of momentum to some of these digital innovations. So how from an education perspective do you ensure that you're equipping your students with the skills that are needed today, but as technology changes, those skills are going to change too? So how do you ensure that the skills that employers need, the skills that are going to boost productivity and our competitiveness, how do you ensure that those are embedded throughout all stages of education?
It's a really big, tough question, that really, in many ways, Tom. So thank you for that. But I think technology is moving at such an incredible rate, and the statistics are scary. You touch on Chat GPT, and I think I think it took it just, what was it, 6 months to get to 300 million users. It took something like social media, the best part of a decade, and mobile phones, like 17 years. To put that into perspective, that's the rate and growth of. So I suppose, and the question is, so how do you ensure that as an institution, education, you're staying abreast of that technology and you're capitalizing on it? And it is a challenge, but one thing we're incredibly proud of at UA92 is we are not afraid at all to embrace technology, and I always say, grab the bull by the horns. I think far too often in education it is so easy just to sit back and see where the technology takes the industry and takes the market. And before you know it, you're locked into licenses with somebody paying for something that's not your own, and it's driving education in the wrong direction. So for us at UA92, I touched on earlier on, we built a £2 million digital academy last year and launched that. And that includes all of the latest technology around VR, augmented reality, metaverse technology, 360 immersive environments. And then we're using things like the metaverse. We're exploring things like blockchain to deliver education and accredit education in particular. We're also working with all of the world's top tech vendors. So we work with the likes of Amazon Web Services, who are the world's leader in cloud technology for everybody in this call. We work with Microsoft, who are on our campus. We're doing some work with Apple. We're doing some work with some Linux providers, CompTIA, Cisco. And what they're really helping us do is help inform our strategic decision making when it comes to technology. So what is the latest type of AI? What is the latest type of cloud technology? What's the latest type of coding tech to automate cloud deployment? And then we're able to embed and ingrain that into the DNA of what we do. And then one of the critical elements of what we do is our employer partners. They're our customers. The likes of Disney Streaming, THG, we work with Manchester United, Microsoft. They are our customers in terms of giving them high quality students and candidates that will drive their businesses forward. So just yesterday, I was working with the head of InfoSec for THG globally, for example. He was on campus, he was working with me, he was informing me about the type of candidates and individuals he wants, what apprenticeships he and his team want to work with, what type of character, what type of values, where they'll be working, how they'll be working. And so we work really close with these employers to ensure that our curriculum, how we interact, how we grow them, how we nurture them, how we qualify them is in line with all of the above.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that sort of the strong link between education providers and employers is going to be so important, isn't it? And especially in a context in which, technology is changing so quickly. And I think you're right that there are, I think, risks in terms of how this technology develops. That's definitely true. But also you can see tremendous opportunities. And I wonder about the uses of AI in order to give young people a degree of personalization and sort of control over their learning that is really exciting potentially. So I think you're absolutely right that ultimately you've got to be mindful of the risks, but it's also about embracing some of the transformation that these new technologies can offer.
And Tom, I think it's a really good point you make there. I think if you just look at our live streaming music, when's the last time you bought a CD or a vinyl? I actually download an MP3. Come on, when's the last time you bought a DVD or a video? If you want to learn something, you just log into YouTube. You want to buy something, you go to an e-commerce site. These are technologies that have enabled and made our lives so much better, and AI is one of those. And we're doing some work, if you don't mind me saying here, around actually. I teach using artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. I know many of my colleagues in my wider academic field across GM are scared to death by it. Plagiarism and copying and cheating, but actually, how can we change how we assess our modes and means of assessment and use AI to increase productivity, increase learning, and enable our people to go to a much higher level of thinking at a much more rapid rate. So we have some really interesting tech coming up regarding AI professors, if I'm allowed to say that, who can support our students and give them that personalized journey, as you've just touched on.
Great, excellent. One point that I wanted then to move on to is around the issues of inclusivity. So making sure that learning opportunities are available to everybody, no matter what their circumstances are. Everybody has a right to access education and to benefit from that education. there obviously are, though, a number of barriers that people may face, say around people with additional learning needs, people with disabilities. So I wondered if you can sort of touch on how UA92 is thinking about making sure that those barriers that may otherwise prevent people from accessing education, that those barriers can come down and everybody can participate as equals. Oh, sorry, I think you're muted.
That was me. That was me. Yeah, that old chestnut. I've done that so many times. Yeah, no half row some challenging questions to you, Tom. And I think there are a number of layers, but I think what's important to really talk about some clear strategies around what you've just touched on is, firstly, we talked about the packages, which I won't go through again. A number of packages, and we've got another one with the Molding Foundation, which we're incredibly grateful for, and it's £250,000. It's £10,000 for 25 students over 3 years to support their maintenance of the university. So these are all the packages, and then the next part of that is about the access to education. I've talked about 6 entry points. So it doesn't matter where you are in your journey in your life at that point in time, you're able to access. And then I suppose the other part of what you said is that, age, race, religion, gender, and if in our boot camps in particular, we have a really strong focus in terms of how we market, how we onboard, and how we support individuals in that journey. So regardless of your prior education, your ability to read or write or know about technology, we have people and mechanisms to ensure that everybody has fair access to these programs and free access to these programs when it comes to certainly skills boot camps. And then and I know then some of this may seem really simple and really straightforward, but we also have much smaller classes at UA92, so classes of 30. And as part of our degree, now that it feels a bit alien to me. I had 800 when I was at university in some of my lecture theatres. I know, and that is a barrier to some of our young individuals. That's scary. So, and it enables our tutors and our lecturers and our teams to know their students, understand them, build relationships, know how they learn, understand how they want to be assessed, best modes of delivery. I'm one student in a group of 800. That lecturer probably never even knew my face, never mind my name. So that personalized approach to who we are and what we do is absolutely paramount. And then again, just the last point is, if you can't see it, how can you believe it? And and how can you be it? And that sounds really straightforward, but that is so important. Having girls from different backgrounds, religions, or different colors and races, in roles, in leadership, delivering technology in particular, to show young girls and people from more marginalized communities that yes, if we or they can do it, you can too, and share that story. So there's some of there's much more, Tom, but they're just some of the key highlights.
Great, thanks so much. So I think now we're going to move to the audience questions. I thank you to those who have submitted questions. Please keep them coming. So we'll take from now until about 1:45 to try and run through as many of these as possible. The first question is about employer partners who are from larger tech companies who can only hire so many, say, bootcamp graduates. What more could be done to tap into the SME market and local businesses, do you think? Because obviously there's a difference there, I guess, between what are the needs of the larger employers versus the smaller employers. But you can imagine that the small employers, the local employers, could also really benefit from these kinds of digital skills programs.
But just for clarity there, Tom, you say what can be done or what are we doing, or both?
Let's go for both.
I knew you'd say that. So I suppose I only highlighted names just for ease of recognition, but we do work with a lot of small businesses SME. So we've got a dedicated partnership team and we reach out. We work with everybody and anybody from a one-man band, a one-lady band, of a shop or a hairdresser or whatever that might be. Or running. For example, I'm working with a lady running. Is it a recruitment and marketing business? And she's looking for either an apprentice or a digital web developer to support her as an individual. So we're already doing that work, and it's it's a much more individual basis and a much more one-to-one relationship with some of those individuals. But you are right. I think in a broader picture, what more can be done, and I think it is around. We've just touched on apprenticeships, Tom, and it sounds to me like you've got quite a bit of knowledge around the levy and how it works. And it's, again, as we've touched on, it's a very complex funding model, the apprenticeships. And if you're a large organization, you can afford to have dedicated recruitment and graduate teams and apprenticeship teams who can do that for you. But a lot of these smaller businesses and SMEs don't have that resource and they need support. And I think, not to palm everything off on like government or local councils, but there needs to be real support for small SMEs and smaller businesses around how do they access their levy to pay for apprenticeships? How can they work with great providers like UA92 who can support you in that space and signpost them? So that hopefully that's giving you an answer for both there, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And I absolutely agree. I think that, yeah, simplifying the process for SMEs as far as possible is clearly the way to go. We have another question related to the packages, saying they sounded fantastic and wondered how they are funded. So when you're providing students with devices, connectivity, how is that funded?
It all comes down to working with great partners and friends. So Microsoft are one of our founding partners, and they have an office on campus at UA92. So we're very grateful that Microsoft have gifted us digital devices to support our students and make it through a package. TalkTalk, another fantastic partner, support us with data. And then we've worked with the likes of the Co-op and Dunelm in terms of food vouchers, and Andy Burnham with travel. And then as I just touched on just before, THG also support and fund out of their charitable pots some of these students. So that's where that funding comes from. It's great friendships and great partnerships.
Great, excellent, thank you. We have another question around retention of students, and also specifically, how do you support students that may need additional help around digital literacy? Because we know that obviously digital literacy is so important as a skill set to develop. But for people that may need that sort of grounding in the essential digital skills, what kind of support is UA92 offering there?
I'll talk about the digital skills bootcamp. There are lots of mechanisms, and we've got a fantastic student wellbeing team that do an awful lot, by the way, across UA92. But if I think about our digital skills bootcamps, we have a number of our students who never used Microsoft Teams before, never really used email accounts before, and we have a specialized. It all comes down to people and support. Everything's about support, and we have a group of individuals in our team that will work with our students to train and onboard them and support them through that onboarding process. In particular, and then we make sure with our partners like Microsoft, pardon me, partners like Microsoft, that we've got access and licenses. Again, it sounds really basic, but free licenses for Teams and the Microsoft ecosystem. So again, it just removes a barrier and enables our students quite easy to access Word, use Outlook, access Teams. And again, our team will train and support and run clinics and support sessions with students.
Great, excellent, thank you. We have another question about work with ex-offenders being able to access UA92. I know from some of the projects that the DPA has run, which are focused specifically on building up digital skills and providing connectivity and devices to prison leavers, it is a really, really big issue, considering how much of services that everybody needs are online now. So I wonder if you could talk a bit about your work, if UA92 works with ex-offenders in terms of some of their provision and programs.
Yeah, so we started some work looking into this because some of our programs, in particular, again, I keep coming back to digital skills bootcamps, but as part of the funding model that provides, it enables you to work with ex-offenders or people in prison. And we are starting to look at how we work with various local authorities or the Greater Manchester Police. And just yesterday, I had a conversation with the head of InfoSec, for example, at THG, around working with the cybercrime unit and working with young offenders that were unaware that they were breaking the law. I'm running some specialized masterclasses and boot camps. So the plan will be from next year, around February, we're going to start running some ethical sessions around cyber and cybersecurity, working with the schools, their parents, and young offenders aged from around 13 and onwards. So yeah, that'll be our first sort of area working in that space specifically to target individuals as a preventative measure.
Great, thank you. We've also had another question about what supports that UA92 provides to mature students.
Oh, mature students are like, I think our biggest advocates and assets in life, not to squeeze out all these young ones, by the way, at all. But I think we're an aging. There's a reality. We are an aging population, an aging society. Technology is moving at a rate, and I think it's always easier for when you're young and you're engaged and you're using the technology day by day to grow in that area. And I think an area that we love to focus and work with is that the 30s up sort of group, which I sit in that category, just in case you're unaware on everybody. But so we provide, we don't really provide any additional support per se. We don't deliver anything very unique or very special. But what we do, which we're really incredibly proud of, is that the opportunities are equal regardless of age or background. So a number of our boot camp students have moved into apprenticeships. And it's always been a diverse mix, those of 40 or coming back from maternity. Pardon me. So we create a very open program, an inclusive program that's not it's not age restricted. The ages vary. I'd say probably half of our students on our skills bootcamp come from sort of an older, more mature background.
Great, thank you. We've had also a question with respect to supporting older people who tend to be most digitally excluded, and we see generally if people don't have connectivity or they don't have digital skills, there's a higher prevalence of digital poverty and digital exclusion amongst, say, the over 65s than there is in the population more generally. So I wonder if there's anything that UA92 does specifically around that sort of digital skills, digital literacy piece for the older generation who is experiencing particular challenges when it comes to digital poverty.
Yeah, so I think from our perspective across our entire institution, all education programs, our outreach and who we work with, based on everything I've discussed today, I think anybody from some of our local marginalised communities or communities across the UK are marginalised for different reasons. They touch on whether it be age and their socioeconomic background, their postcode, their parental background, and we everything we present, everything we do is about having the supportive measures in there, whether it be funding, additional training, different programs, i.e. degree, apprenticeship, digital skills bootcamp work for you. So we ensure that we've got the right menu of options in terms of a pathway in education for age, not to be ageist or again, but we find a number of our older students find apprenticeships a better route because of they have mortgages, they might have kids or families, or and they're used to working. Not saying that's per se, but we're having those options available to different individuals is a great, and then having the people and the mechanisms of support I've touched on with funding routes. So if you are somebody who's struggled with technology from a slightly older background, we've got people, we've got programs like Fast Forward, which is another program that UA92 delivers, which is aimed at, if you've not necessarily got the academic background, or you're a bit apprehensive, it's almost like a taster to education. You do a week or two with us, we walk you through everything, and you come out at the end of that with a mini, almost a badge of approval to say, okay, you might be right for UA92, and let's progress you to the next phase.
Great, thank you. So I see that we are essentially at time now. So thank you so much, everybody, for contributing your questions. I see actually we have a couple that we didn't get around to answer, but I'm sure that we can circulate that to you, Sax, after the webinar. So I think that now all that's left to say is thank you, everybody, for attending. We will follow up with a copy of the recording for everybody that joined us today. And thanks again, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you, everybody, and have a very Merry Christmas.